When her husband abandoned her for a younger woman, Maria thought she had lost everything: her marriage, her dignity, and the future she had dreamed of for her family. Left to raise her children alone, she faced humiliation and hardship at every turn. But one night, while cleaning the dusty attic of her old home, she stumbled upon something so shocking, so life-changing, it would silence every whisper against her and rewrite her destiny forever. This is a story of betrayal, resilience, and an unexpected fortune that turned despair into redemption. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because stories like this one will keep you watching until the very end. The day Javier moved his suits out of the closet, Maria didn't cry. She folded the empty hangers into a neat stack and set them on the shelf like bones she refused to bury. The house felt too loud with its new silence: the hum of the refrigerator, the tick of the hallway clock, the lonely clink of a spoon in a mug. Outside, a rideshare idled while a girl, ponytail, glossy lip, laughter like something you buy in a bottle, loaded the last garment bag into the trunk. "Don't make this harder," Javier said, eyes skating past the family photos as if they'd belonged to tenants before him. "We're adults." Adults, Maria thought, don't abandon mortgages and promise child support once things stabilize. Adults don't leave post-it notes with bank login reminders that lead to balances thin as air. She stood with her hand on the doorframe, measuring the space he'd carved out of their lives and the draft it left behind. Emma, 12, sat cross-legged on the sofa, jaw clenched, a bruise of silence under each eye. Mateo, 8, had his face pressed to the window, tracing the fog of his breath with a finger. When the car pulled away, he whispered, "Is he coming back for dinner?" "Not tonight, honey," Maria said, keeping her voice smooth, ironing the tremor out of it. After bedtime, she walked the house to see what else was missing. The watch Javier's father gave him? Gone. The espresso machine he'd bought on a whim? Gone. The toolbox his grandfather had left him? Strangely, still there, rusted, dented, heavy with the kind of weight you inherit when people stop wanting it. The attic hatch stared down from the hallway ceiling, two paint-chipped rectangles of plywood with a dangling string. They hadn't been up there in years. When they bought the house, the inspector called it mostly storage, nothing notable. They'd stashed Christmas lights, maternity clothes, and boxes of college notebooks no one had the heart to toss. Over time, the hatch became a border between the present and the lives they were too busy to curate. 2 weeks later, the numbers didn't add up no matter how she moved them around. Maria worked mornings at the clinic front desk and picked up evening shifts at the bakery, coming home with hands that smelled like sanitizer and sugar. The mortgage notice arrived with its polite threat. The lights flickered, choosing her worst thoughts to strobe. At dinner, she cut the chicken breast into thinner slices and said, "Isn't it fun to have tapas?" Emma looked at the plate, then at her mother, and chewed quietly. On a Saturday thick with summer heat, Maria climbed the hallway stool and tugged the attic cord. Dust sighed down like old applause. She told the kids she was sorting donations, anything to avoid saying, "I'm looking for something to sell." In the garage, she'd already found a box of Javier's law textbooks and the golf clubs he used twice. A neighbor offered $20 for the clubs and a sympathetic shrug as if pity paid interest. Up in the attic, heat wrapped around her like a fever. A single bulb cast a weak cone of light on a wilderness of boxes. Baby clothes, Emma, tax docs 2013 to 2016, Christmas, fragile, kitchen, why do we still own this? She crawled on the joists, balancing over the drywall like a tightrope walker. Spiderwebs stitched the corners. Something small skittered and thought better of it. She opened a wardrobe box and smiled despite herself at the tiny shoes lined like commas in tissue paper. In another, she found the blanket her mother had knitted, soft as apology. She pressed it to her face until the smell of cedar and dust and a faint trace of her mother's perfume loosened something in her chest. At the far end, a narrow low section stretched beyond the bulb's reach. Darkness pooled there. Maria clicked on her phone flashlight and squinted. A cedar chest jammed under a sloped beam, its lid buckled by a nailed board as if someone had tried to keep it shut. She crawled toward it, palms and knees blackened. The board had been installed hastily, 2 crooked nails, a strip of brittle tape over an edge. She pried at the nail heads with a flathead screwdriver from the forgotten toolbox, every grunt echoing the ache she'd bitten back for weeks. One nail came loose, then the other with a protesting squeal. The board fell away. The chest lid stuck. She wedged the screwdriver into the seam and leaned her weight. With a dry crack, it yielded. Inside, not baby clothes or old linens. Inside were envelopes bound with string, their paper thick and yellowed, codes scrawled in Javier's tight legal hand and in another script Maria recognized like a melody, his grandfather's. Under the envelopes, a ledger book, its corners rounded by use. Beneath that, a metal box with a combination dial. The air smelled not just of cedar but of ink and something metallic like the ghost of coins. Her heart tripped. She lifted an envelope. It crackled with density. Inside, glossy slips of paper and protective sleeves, stock certificates. The company names meant nothing to her, but the dates printed along the edges went back decades. Tucked among them, a registered letter, unopened, addressed to Javier Alvarez and Maria Alvarez, stamped 5 years prior, return address a private wealth firm downtown. Her mouth went dry. This wasn't spare change. This was a map hidden in their roof. Mom? Emma's voice floated up from the hall, tentative. Do you need water? Stay there, Maria called, too sharp then softer. Please? I'm okay. She reached for the metal box. The dial numbers blurred. What was the combination? Javier's birthday? Their anniversary? She tried both. The lock held fast, smug. On the inside of the chest lid, light caught on a shallow etching. A set of 4 numbers hand-scratched into the wood, then faintly crossed out. Below them, newer numbers, deeper, deliberate. Maria steadied her breathing and ran her finger over the fresh grooves. Down in the hallway, the doorbell rang. One peal, then a second, impatient official. Emma called, Mom, there's a man in a suit. He says he's from the bank. Maria's fingers hovered over the dial. Maria wiped the dust from her palms onto her jeans, heart thudding. She lowered herself carefully from the attic ladder, her mind still upstairs with the chest and its cryptic numbers. At the door stood a man in a gray suit, his tie neat, a clipboard tucked beneath his arm. He introduced himself with the kind of formality that made her skin prickle. Mrs. Alvarez? He asked. Her mouth tightened. It's Ortega now. He glanced at his notes. My apologies. I represent First Colonial Bank. We've been trying to reach Javier Alvarez. Is he available? Maria's grip tightened on the doorframe. No, he isn't. The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. Perhaps you can pass along a message. There are delinquent matters concerning a safety deposit account. Substantial sums are in question. If they aren't claimed soon, the bank will initiate forfeiture proceedings. The word forfeiture echoed in her head. She remembered the sealed envelopes upstairs, the metal box that seemed to hum with secrets. I don't know where he is, she said carefully, and I'm not responsible for his accounts. The man leaned slightly closer, lowering his voice. Perhaps not legally. But sometimes families benefit from stepping forward. If you discover anything, papers, keys, combinations, contact me immediately. He slipped a card into her hand before she could protest. Then he turned and walked briskly toward the street, leaving Maria with her pulse racing and a rectangle of cardstock burning against her palm. Emma appeared in the hallway, clutching Mateo's hand. Who was that? Maria forced a smile. No one important. Just someone asking questions. But her daughter's sharp eyes studied her. Emma was old enough to know when adults were lying. That night, after the children were asleep, Maria climbed back into the attic. The chest waited, the numbers etched into the lid glowing faintly in her flashlight beam. She brushed her fingers over the newer set, 1-9-7-8. Her breath caught. It wasn't Javier's birthday. It was his grandfather's. She twisted the combination dial on the metal box. 1, 9, 7, 8. The lock clicked. The lid opened. Inside lay bundles of documents stamped with seals she recognized from financial news. Share certificates, property deeds, a savings bond older than she was. Nestled in the corner, a velvet pouch clinked with the heavy sound of old coins. Maria sank back onto her heels, tears stinging her eyes. This wasn't just money, it was legacy. Javier's family had hidden a fortune in plain sight, tucked into the rafters while she rationed meals and begged creditors for mercy. Her phone buzzed on the attic floor, startling her. A message lit the screen from an unknown number. We know what you found. Don't make a mistake. Maria's hands went cold. She stared at the chest, at the treasure she didn't yet understand, and then back at the message. She wasn't supposed to know. She wasn't supposed to open it. Downstairs, a floorboard creaked, too heavy, too deliberate to be the children. Someone was in the house. Maria froze, her breath caught in her throat. The phone's glow dimmed in her hand, but the message still burned in her mind. We know what you found. Another creak came from the hallway. Not Emma. Not Mateo. The sound was heavier, measured, boots, not bare feet. Her heart hammered as she snapped the box shut, clutching it to her chest. She switched off the flashlight and crouched low, the attic suddenly suffocating in darkness. Maria? A voice called softly from below. Mel. Familiar. She stiffened. Javier. For a moment she thought she had conjured him, a ghost born from anger and betrayal. But then his voice came again, closer. I know you're up there. We need to talk. Maria's mind raced. He had left without a backward glance, yet here he was, sneaking into the house he abandoned. Go back to your girlfriend, Maria hissed down the ladder. Silence. Then a low laugh. She doesn't matter. Not like this does. The beam of a flashlight cut across the attic floor. He was climbing up. Maria scrambled backward, bumping boxes, her hand tightening on the metal box. You don't belong here. Javier's head appeared in the opening, his expression hard. Neither do you. This house isn't yours, it's mine. And so is what's in that chest. She gripped the screwdriver she'd used earlier, pointing it like a dagger. Don't come closer. He sneered. You think you can stop me? His eyes flicked to the chest behind her, and hunger flashed across his face. Stay back, she warned, her voice trembling but fierce. Maria, he said, lowering his tone to a coaxing purr, you don't know what you're holding. That fortune, it's not just money. It's power. It was my grandfather's, then mine. You wouldn't even understand how to use it. Maria's rage rose hot in her chest. Understand it? I've been the one holding this family together while you played house with someone half your age. My kids went hungry while you hid gold in the rafters. Javier climbed another rung, his hand reaching toward her. Give it to me and I'll make this easy. She raised the screwdriver higher. Come one step closer and see what happens. Behind him, a sudden noise broke the tension. A loud knock at the front door, authoritative, insistent. Javier cursed under his breath. They're here already? Maria blinked. Who? Before he could answer, the knock came again, followed by a voice. Open up. Police. Javier's eyes widened. He dropped down the ladder and bolted toward the back door. Maria clutched the box, trembling. Police, she whispered, her mind spinning. Who had called them? The bank? The stranger in the suit? Or someone else watching her every move? She crept down the ladder, the box pressed tight against her chest. Through the window, red and blue lights pulsed, painting the walls with warning. Emma and Mateo appeared in the hallway, rubbing their eyes. Mom? What's happening? Maria swallowed hard, pulling them close. Stay behind me. Another bang rattled the door. Mrs. Ortega, open up now. Her knees went weak. If the police were here, whose side were they on? The pounding rattled the front door so hard that Emma whimpered and pressed her face into Maria's side. Mateo clung to her arm, wide-eyed. Mrs. Ortega, the voice barked again. Open the door or we will enter. Maria's pulse pounded. If she opened the door, she risked losing everything. If she didn't, she risked terrifying her children more, or worse, having the police force their way in. She took a steadying breath, set the metal box behind the sofa, and whispered, Stay here. Do not move. Emma's voice cracked. Mom? Maria kissed her hair. Trust me. When Maria cracked the door, 2 officers stood on the porch, flashlights cutting across her face. Their patrol car painted the street in alternating red and blue. Maria Ortega? One asked. She nodded. We received a call reporting suspicious activity. Neighbors said a man broke into this house. Her stomach twisted. Javier. Yes, she said quickly. My ex-husband. He forced his way in. He ran out the back when you knocked. The officers exchanged looks. One scribbled in a notepad. Did he threaten you? Maria hesitated. Images of the attic, the chest, the message on her phone all blurred together. She forced out, he tried to take something. I stopped him. The officer's gaze sharpened. Something? Maria swallowed hard. Personal belongings. The taller one nodded. We'll file a report. Do you want to press charges for trespassing? Her throat tightened. If she pressed charges, Javier would fight back with everything he had, and he already knew about the fortune in the attic. But if she didn't, he'd keep coming. Yes, she whispered. Press charges. The officers jotted notes. We'll put out a bolo. If he resurfaces, we'll pick him up. They handed her a card and turned back toward their car. Maria sagged against the doorframe, relief and fear tangling in her chest. The children peeked from the hallway. Are we safe? Mateo asked. Maria forced a smile. For now. But as she tucked them back into bed, her phone buzzed again. Another message, same unknown number. Press charges if you want. You can't keep it. It was never yours. Her hand trembled as she powered off the phone. The next morning, Maria returned to the attic. Sunlight filtered through the roof beams, dust motes swirling like secrets in the air. She opened the chest again, this time examining the ledger buried beneath the envelopes. Her eyes scanned line after line of transactions. Land deeds. Offshore accounts. Notes scrawled in her father-in-law's shaky handwriting, for the family's future. To be used wisely. Her breath caught on one entry near the bottom. Transfer pending, beneficiary, Maria Ortega. She froze. The money wasn't Javier's. It wasn't hidden from her. It was meant for her. Her heart surged with vindication, but also with dread. If Javier knew, he would stop at nothing to take it. And the messages proved she wasn't just fighting him anymore. Someone else was watching. That night, Maria sat at the kitchen table, staring at the ledger and the unopened envelope marked with her name. Emma sat across from her, sketching quietly, stealing glances at her mother's tense face. "Mom," Emma said softly, "what's in that box? Why are you so scared?" Maria looked into her daughter's eyes, seeing Javier's stubbornness and her own resilience reflected back. For the first time, she wondered if hiding the truth was more dangerous than revealing it. She reached for the envelope, sliding a finger under the seal, when the kitchen window shattered. A brick skidded across the floor, glass raining down. Maria gasped, pulling Emma to the ground. On the brick was a note, scrawled in jagged handwriting. "Last warning. Give it up, or lose everything." Maria swept the broken glass into a pan with trembling hands, her children still huddled in the hallway. Emma held Mateo protectively, eyes wide and unblinking. "It's okay," Maria whispered, though her voice cracked. "We're okay." But inside she knew they were anything but. The note from the brick sat on the counter, the jagged handwriting burning into her mind. "Last warning. Give it up, or lose everything." Whoever sent it wasn't just trying to scare her, they were promising destruction. By morning the story had spread. Janet from the diner arrived unannounced with groceries and worry etched across her face. "Maria, what's going on? I heard about the police here last night, and someone said Javier was sniffing around again." Maria hesitated, then pulled her into the kitchen, lowering her voice. "It's bigger than Javier. I found something in the attic." She opened the chest, revealing the ledgers, bonds, and envelopes. Janet gasped. This is a fortune." Maria nodded. "But it's dangerous. Someone else knows. Someone powerful." That afternoon, Dana Walsh, the same attorney who had once defended her against Eric, arrived at Maria's request. She combed through the documents, her lawyer's eyes widening. "These are legitimate," Dana said, holding up the ledger. "These assets could set you and the kids up for life. But," she tapped the threatening note on the table, "it looks like someone's been trying to keep this hidden. Maybe even laundering money through the trust." Maria's stomach twisted. "Laundering?" Dana nodded grimly. "This isn't just family wealth. It's mixed with something darker. Which means if you keep it, they'll come after you. And if you hand it over, they'll silence you." Maria slumped into a chair. "So what choice do I have?" "Expose it," Dana said. "Bring it all into the light. The authorities, the press. Make it so public they can't bury it. But you need proof tying it to whoever's behind these threats." That night, Maria pored over the ledger again. One name kept appearing in coded notes. H. Castillo. A man she had never met, but whose influence seemed to stretch through property deeds and offshore accounts. She searched the name on her phone. Article after article painted a chilling picture. A wealthy developer with ties to shady businesses, a man known for making problems disappear. Her blood ran cold. This wasn't just Javier's greed, it was bigger. A conspiracy. At dawn, she bundled Emma and Mateo into the car and drove to her mother's old friend Rosa's house, far out of town. Rosa welcomed them with open arms and no questions, just warm beds and food. Maria returned alone, determined to face the storm head-on. She couldn't put the children in more danger. As she entered the house, her phone buzzed again. A new message. "Smart move sending the kids away. But you're not safe. Meet me tonight. Abandoned mill. Midnight. Or we'll take it all from you anyway." Maria's hands shook as she read it. Whoever they were, they had eyes everywhere. She glanced at the chest, at the fortune that had already cost her peace and safety. The decision pressed down on her like lead. Go to the meeting and risk everything, or refuse and risk even more. She whispered to herself, "If this is the fight, I'll fight." At midnight, Maria parked outside the mill, the chest strapped into the passenger seat. The building loomed, its broken windows like watchful eyes. A black car idled inside, headlights glowing faintly. A figure stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, his face hidden in shadow. Maria gripped the box tighter, her pulse pounding. The man's voice echoed through the empty space. "Mrs. Ortega, you've made things very complicated for us." The mill smelled of rust and rot, the silence broken only by the drip of water echoing through its cavernous halls. Maria tightened her grip on the chest, her breath frosting in the cold night air. The man in the shadows stepped closer. His face came into view, Hector Castillo, the developer whose name haunted the ledger. His suit looked too sharp for this ruin, his smile too polished to be honest. "You should have left it where it was," he said, circling her like a predator. "That fortune wasn't meant for you." Maria forced her voice steady. "It was meant for the family. Your name is all over those papers. You've been using it to hide dirty money." Castillo's eyes glinted. "You're smart. But being smart can get you killed." Behind him, another figure emerged, Javier. His face was pale, his bravado gone. He wouldn't meet her eyes. "You brought him?" Maria spat. Javier shrugged helplessly. "I didn't have a choice. He owns everything. He owns me." Castillo chuckled. "And soon he'll own you too, unless you hand it over." He tapped the chest. Maria's heart raced. This was the moment Dana had warned her about. Bring it all into the light. Slowly, she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out her phone. "What are you doing?" Castillo demanded. Maria raised her chin. "Live streaming." The screen glowed, already broadcasting. Thousands of viewers were pouring in. The story had spread after the brick incident, and Dana had told her, "If you get the chance, show everything." Castillo lunged, but Maria yanked open the chest, shoving the documents into the camera. "These are the records of Hector Castillo: land deals, offshore accounts, stolen wealth. This is why families like mine suffered while men like him thrived." Javier swore under his breath, panic flashing in his eyes. Castillo's face twisted into rage. "You think a live stream will save you?" But headlights flared outside. Sirens wailed. Police flooded into the mill, weapons drawn. "Hands where we can see them." Castillo's empire, carefully built in shadows, crumbled under the floodlights. Officers seized the chest, Dana arriving moments later with district investigators. As Castillo was led away in handcuffs, he sneered at Maria. "You'll regret this. They always do." But Maria stood tall, her children's faces flashing in her mind. "No. My only regret is not opening that attic sooner." Javier tried to slink away, but an officer blocked him. "You're coming too. Fraud, conspiracy, you're done." For the first time, Javier looked small. Powerless. Weeks later, Maria stood before a packed press conference. The chest sat beside her, now a symbol of justice reclaimed. "Families like mine live with hunger and shame while fortunes rot in attics and crooks get rich. Not anymore. These funds will establish the Alvarez Ortega Trust, dedicated to single parents and children in need. This legacy will finally serve the people it was meant to." Emma and Mateo stood at her sides, their small hands wrapped around hers. Cameras flashed, but Maria no longer felt exposed, she felt unbreakable. That night, back in the quiet of their kitchen, Maria served a full dinner without cutting corners. Emma leaned across the table, eyes bright. "Mom, you're a hero." Maria smiled softly. "No, sweetheart. I'm just a mother who refused to give up." The attic no longer loomed above them as a place of dust and secrets. It had become the symbol of their new life, a life built on truth, resilience, and redemption. If Maria's journey inspired you, make sure to subscribe for more powerful stories of struggle, survival, and triumph. Leave a comment about the moment that moved you most, and share this story with someone who needs hope today. Because sometimes the greatest treasures aren't found in attics or vaults, but in the courage to fight for what's right.